Hello, welcome back. We're still talking about assessment. So, we want to look at some of the things that will guarantee you success in your assessments beyond just knowing the topic or knowledge of the course. So, number one is critical thinking. Critical thinking is a deliberate thought process involving the following. You have to consider an issue from multiple perspectives, critically examine the evidence using reason, attend to information that might disconfirm initial ideas, reasoning objectively and dispassionately about a topic, and arriving at informed judgment and decision. What does all this mean? What this simply means is that you understand what you are talking about when you are looking at a topic. So for example, let me give an example. If somebody comes to you and says, we conducted a research, and in that research 90% of respondents say that the Republican Party in the US would win the election, would you just say, oh okay, that's true, you accept it? Or would you stop and say, hang on a minute, what do you mean? How many people did you sample for that research? If the person said, oh, we sampled 100 people, and of that 100, 90 of them said Republican. Please, the question I will ask you, is 100 people enough to form a conclusion that the Republican Party will win? Of course not. So you need to think about the evidence. You examine the evidence. If the sample size is so small, that's why it looks like such a high percentage of people are supporting such a party. That's one example. In another example, it could be the method they used to analyze that data. They used a wrong method, and so their result is biased. So when you're answering your exam questions, for example, a question could be so and so scholar did a research. In his paper in 2016, he concluded that children who eat beans are more likely to be taller. Discuss. You're not going to say, oh, you read the paper, you now come and quote what you read in that paper as your answer. That's completely wrong. What you would do in that case is you show that you read the paper, yes, but you also show that you understand where the possible limitations of that research is. For example, let's ask this question. Assuming all the people that the researchers sampled have tall mothers, is it not likely that those children would be also tall, whether or not they eat beans? It means that genetically they are already disposed to having to be tall. So that's already a limitation. Did they factor in maternal height in that research? If they did not, that research might already be biased. Do you understand? Also, do you know that environmental factors affect the height of people? There are certain countries that you go to that they are generally taller than some other countries. For example, if you go to Germany or the Netherlands, those people tend to be taller. It may not be beans that cause their height. So what am I trying to let you know here? This is just a simple example I'm using. But you need to show that you're thinking critically about it. And if there are limitations and you can identify it, don't be afraid to say so. Write it. The lecturers like that you are able to see some of these things. And funny enough, even them as lecturers, they might not have considered some of these critiques or some of these limitations. And then seeing a student being able to categorically say to them, I have read this paper, I understand the research, this was not factored into it, this is a limitation, they love it. That is from my own experience that I that I saw while studying at the University of Sussex. So being able to understand where the challenges are, where the limitations are, where the critiques are, it's a key thing that would help you succeed. Sometimes the lecturers would even say something wrong and want to hear what you think. They will ask you, what do you think? Being able to think about it and say, this sounds good, but I think this other way could have also worked. What are the alternative methodologies that could have been a better way to answer those research questions? Now, it looks like I'm talking about research only, but it's not only in research. In other areas, in discussions in class, the lecturer might say something, you say, hang on, but I read this book and this was what this person says. How do you think that works in line with this? Just showing that you are vast in these topics will help you a lot. I know one of my friends that really used this and it really helped her, but me coming from Nigeria, I didn't know this early enough. But now I'm able to let you know that critical thinking skills is is king when you're studying for example, in a school like Sussex that emphasizes more of application rather than theory. Critical thinking is king. Being able to show that you understand things, you are reasoning objectively, you are using the evidence with reason, you consider multiple perspectives. There are more than one ways to answering a question. Why is this way chosen over this? Is it because this was the easier way, not really because it was the right way? So these are some of the things you need to take note of. If you have this at the back of your mind, when you're approaching your exams, you don't just copy and paste what you read. Rather, you think about it, you stop and ask yourself, what could be the possible thing that will upset this whole framework, that it won't work well? When you find that that is your sweet spot, then you say that if done this way, it will not work. Another way is this thing you're saying generalizable? So if someone comes and conducts a research in Lagos and say people in Lagos are more likely to buy this type of phone, can we generalize that to the whole of Nigeria? If they now come and say because they conducted it in Lagos, therefore everybody in Nigeria will buy this type of phone, it is a big no. You have only done this thing in Lagos. The sample in Lagos is quite different from the sample in Kaduna. The sample in Kaduna is quite different from the sample in Ekiti. The sample in Ekiti is different from the one in Uyo, also different from the one in Abakaliki. So what you're trying to say, you understand that this your research has a limitation and it is not generalizable to the whole of Nigeria. Similarly, research that are done in one country that they try to generalize it for the rest of Africa, there is always a limitation there. It may not work in what may work in Nigeria will not work in Ghana. The population is different. The size, the culture, the background, it is all different. So these are some of the things you need to be able to say, I understand it, I know it, and showing that you know it would help you a lot. So there is more critical thinking, but these are some of the key points. I think once you start thinking like this, even beyond your studies, it will help you. When you see things on the news, before you accept them, you ask a question: who wrote it? Why did they write it? Is this news outdated information? Is this a disinformation? Is it real? You ask all those kind of questions. You think about it. You think about the questions because you're enlightened. You know that you don't just take anything at face value. And so that is very, very important. You have to look at the whole picture. Look at these points from critical thinking, the critical thinking image here. It is key to helping you to succeed in your assessment, not just exams, but also your essay-based assessments too. Communication skills. This one is very straightforward. When you are writing your assessment, it's good that you have the knowledge, right? It's good you can think about it critically. But if you cannot communicate it correctly, coherently, clearly, concisely, how would the lecturer know that you know it? Communication skills help you to show them, I understand this thing, I can communicate it clearly. From you who is the sender to the receiver, who is the person marking your assessment, they must understand the same thing. It must be the same thing you are trying to transmit that they get on the other end. So if you know you have knowledge of the course, you can critically reflect on the topic and you can communicate it. You are certainly almost there because you are communicating clearly to the person that is assessing you. Thirdly, problem solving. Each of those questions people ask is a problem. Someone presents a problem to you as a question. Are you able to break it down, examine the question they asked you, and you're able to identify key elements of the strengths and weaknesses, compile a persuasive argument, and make a recommendation to solve that question you've been asked? Simple. So those 3 steps: critical thinking, solving problem, and communicating clearly, is all you need to excel on your assessment. As long as you have the knowledge and you're willing to put those key things in place, you are winning over there. So in summary, you've learned about differences between lectures and seminars. You've also learned about the things you need to maximize your lectures and seminars. We talked about maximizing your relationship with your lecturers and tutors. We also touched 3 skills that will help you succeed in your assessments. And I'm sure that if you take these things into practice, they will go a long way to help you. Thank you for staying to the end. This is me saying thank you very, very much. I can't wait to see you on the next video.